Gardevoir for him time and time again. I think he's found his favorite deck.
Who doesn't love a little cold action, getting a little bit chilly on your opponents? And there's going to be some really interesting dynamics, some tech cards to talk about. Let's take a look at these prizes, see if there's some important pieces in here. We do see 2 copies of Rare Candy, and now Ciaran has opted to play the maximum copies for Rare Candy in this deck. So we'll maybe struggle a little bit to get Baxcalibur out. Shouldn't be too big of a deal, but on Mikey's side, does prize a few of those important energy cards. You need those to get your Pokemon powered up, draw cards. It's the name of the game when it comes to these Lost Zone decks.
Yeah, Jet energies to continue to see multiple flower selectings, grass energy so that you can perform some of those incredible attacks that you have with whichever Pokemon it may be, likely one of those Giratina V-Stars. You need those energies to get rolling, and this could be scary.
Some cool tech cards to talk about. Mikey has been playing an interesting version of this deck. We'll see if he's able to establish some of these key lines, these key pieces. As let's get into this here. Round number 4, getting kicked off right away. Ciaran does have a very solid hand here. Lots of searching cards, especially something like that Nest Ball. With Chien-Pao, you can start to grab these energy cards out of the deck, build up your combos, and wreak havoc on your opponent's board.
Yeah, and immediately you see all of the favorites of this deck moving to the front. The Radiant Greninja, the Chien-Pao, the water energies to go with the Chien-Pao. Everything is lined up in this opening hand, and this is going first as well. And you know what I always say, nothing beats a run-hot Chien-Pao.
Hey, it's hard to beat this deck when it draws well, and that's coming from a Gardevoir player as well. You kind of just sit there sometimes with your hands on your head, and you say, look, if you've got it, you've got it. And sometimes it's really hard for this deck to not have it when it's just got so many ways to build the hand up, find cards, and what an excellent start. Attaching to that Bidoof, retreating to allow this Chien-Pao EX to use Shivery Chill, get these water energies, and that's going to pair great with that second Nest Ball to find Radiant Greninja.
Incredible. Look at this. All of the different art energies that go along with this. The EX Emerald energy from nearly 20 years ago is in the discard pile here, and Ciaran is definitely flexing to start things off here in LA.
Sometimes you gotta, I don't really like playing so many different water energies, but hey, so listen, you may have to use some of your tournament winnings here to buy 7 more EX Emerald Hollow energies. How about that?
I'm sure he'll be able to figure it out, especially if he keeps trolling like this. The Buddy Poffin lined up and ready to roll. And although there is a Frigibax in the prize cards, 2 will still hit the board here on the opening turn. This is a dream scenario.
Excellent here. There is some small changes to this list as we sort of have seen this list evolve. We saw sort of the standard list get played a lot over in the European regional a couple weekends ago, and Ciaran is playing this deck again, but has actually just chosen to only play the 60 HP Frigibax. And look, it's great, it only has 1 retreat, but that 70 HP could come in useful later on in the game.
Yeah, obviously when you're playing against a player who's using a Lost Box engine, you have to think about Sableye. It's so detrimental when they are able to clear off multiple Frigibax in a turn. But if you're going first and you're rolling like this, you just evolve those Pokemon as fast as you can. Irida equals Baxcalibur turn 2, and we see it in the hand. This is a mighty mountain for Mikey to climb.
Mikey's got 1 key Pokemon here to help him. You see those 2 Pokemon immediately put to the top of the deck. That Shuppet and that Banette, of course, Everlasting Darkness. A very powerful attack for a single Psychic Energy can shut Ciaran off of playing any of these item cards. And Ciaran only has that Rare Candy to get Baxcalibur into play, and lots of those ways to retrieve energy cards. Mikey can sort of get this Banette established, start using that attack over and over again. Ciaran may just not have enough resources without being able to play items to keep up.
Yeah, what the disrespect to Artibax, the middle backs, as we've called him so many times before, and it just doesn't show up in the deck list. It's too slow. You can Rare Candy so easily with the Irida, so you just focus on that, try to get that Pokemon evolved as fast as possible. And that's the benefit of going first. You have this opportunity where if you can sneak this Pokemon into play, you're going to be all right. The issue is Shuppet doesn't like item cards.
No, it doesn't. And Mikey is presented with a very interesting choice in this situation. Now, Ciaran did have to retreat that Bidoof, so there's currently no energy in play. So if Ciaran wants to attack next turn, we'll have to evolve into Baxcalibur and then use that Shivery Chill ability. Kyle, is there ever a situation here with Mikey where if you can find a Psychic Energy, you go in with that Enveloping Shadow and try and flip heads to just give yourself an extra turn to shut Ciaran off of items?
1000%. It seems like an excellent play, and it does benefit a little bit on the fact that Ciaran did not start with that Chien-Pao in the active. If there's a Water Energy on this Pokemon, there's a threatened turn 2 knockout on that Shuppet. Instead, you can potentially slow down your opponent to the point where item locking is going to be exactly what you walk into in that next step of Banette.
And this list with Bennett not playing any water energy to threaten something like Moonlight Shuriken, we are going to see the Flower selecting does find a Switch card and an Ultra Ball. But with how this board is developing for Mikey, there's only one bench space open. Could see another Comfey come down, but I'm not sure the hand is looking as solid as Mikey would like to. That Ultra Ball can find Bennett the following turn, but you need to play Colress, you need to draw cards for this deck to really function. And yeah, I mean, looking at this hand, there is nothing going on. It looks like there is a second Shuppet in the hand, and with the Manaphy in play, you do give yourself a little bit of protection. Mikey will play that down. And the question here, do you play Switch? It's just going to be a switch into Radiant Greninja. The hand is super weak, and Ciaran will have a turn here to set this board off, pop off a little bit, and importantly, does have Irida and Baxcalibur in hand. Can start to really dig through the deck, find these energy cards, and put on aggression. Yeah,
you really start to wonder what cards could Ciaran potentially find in a situation like this. You do see the Manaphy there, and you start to wonder, is the Canceling Cologne one of those cards? No, it's cut for that 4th rare candy, and that has been a big change we've seen lately. However, Iron Bundle is at least going to get a different Pokemon promoted, and any of these are a great choice for Ciaran. Would love to knock out one of those Shuppet.
Yeah, all threats. You don't want to shut off your Comfey engine. You don't want to give Manaphy up, because then Canceling Cologne allows you to take a knockout on multiple of these Shuppets on the bench. So I think the smartest choice here for Mikey, bring the Shuppet up into the active, try and deny as little as possible here. We are just going to see, it looks like, another searching card there that has Hisuian Heavy Ball. We'll grab the Frigibax out of the prize card, so putting that into the hand, and it's up to Ciaran now to try and sequence this as best as possible to maybe find a crazy combination of something like that Prime Catcher, Canceling Cologne, Knockout Bow Shuppet. Actually, looking at this here, I mean, you got to make space for some of these new inclusions. There is actually no Canceling Cologne in this deck. That is really a card of topic for a lot of these GM-POW players.
Yeah, when you go to the 4th candy, it's a nod to the fact that Irida is such a prominent card in the current meta, playing against all those control builds. You want to have as many rare candy as possible, maybe to play around some of those de-evolution TMs that you'd see as well. So having the 4 candy means that it's so likely that you'll have the turn 2 Baxcalibur to roll and take some quick knockouts. However, you do lose some of that incredible pop-off potential in knocking out Manaphys, along with maybe even taking out 2 Comfeys, 2 Shuppets, whatever it may be.
Now this hand will not grant much here for Ciaran, but does still hold on to that Irida, and now can use Shivery Chill to find some water energies and use that Concealed Cards ability. And yeah, this deck, even from starting with no evolutions in play, just a few basic Pokemon on the bench, with the help of Greninja, GN-POW, and then Bibarel, you can sequence everything as perfectly as possible to maximize your draw and really give yourself a lot of options with this deck.
Yeah, so much sequencing goes into this build when you're playing out all the cards, and sure enough, you see Ciaran values having those energies after the fact that he built up the hand with the Bibarel, now has those water energies ready to roll, draw with the Radiant Greninja. This is how you start to build a hand, and you still have the potential to play down this Irida and have that turn 2 knockout.
Did find Prime Catcher there off that Concealed Cards, and not sure if Ciaran is really ready to invest that powerful A-Spec yet. I mean, it is something that you could possibly do if you do have enough water energies. We do see that Superior Energy Retrieval in the hand, so we could maybe see some aggression after this Giratina V. But it feels like public enemy number 1 may just be these Shuppets in play thus far.
Yeah, at this point, you're worried about just taking an opening prize card, and I think next turn is a point where you can get a little more aggressive. Your opponent only got 1 card into the Lost Zone at this point, so for any relevant attack, you're going to have to reach that 7, reach the Mirage Gate, and just start putting on aggression. I think you take your time here, take a quick knockout, and just get ready for next turn.
Yeah, and Ciaran even looking to play this Superior Energy Retrieval for not the full effect, just wants to get water energies back before this Everlasting Darkness starts the following turn, to just load this GM-POW up, put a bunch of energies into play, and say, look, no matter what you do, no matter if you shut me off of items, I'm going to have enough water energies in the tank to take a knockout onto your Bennett EX.
Yep, this is the debate turn. You have that Prime Catcher. You could Prime Catcher, retreat for 1, lose all the energies, and knock out the Giratina V. Or you can be happy with just this single prize, get rid of 1 energy, keep these energies on board. Your opponent probably doesn't have an answer next turn.
Yeah, with 1 card in the Lost Zone, definitely nothing to knock out this GM-POW EX, especially with how clogged the board is here. There's only space for 1 more Comfey. So Ciaran going to leave 2 energy on this GM-POW, take the knockout with Hailblade, and Mikey with such a poor hand the following turn. The previous turn really needs to find something here. There is a Pokegear, so we're going to look at these top 7. Is there a supporter card?
Not the right one.
It's
not even there.
No supporter card here, and with the hand as poor as it is, there's no way to move this Comfey out of the active. No energy cards. That Mirage Gate cannot be played. And
do you like game 2s?
look, I like game twos if we're going to win game twos. That game did not go Mikey's way. And however, does make the smart choice, understands how important it is this early on to get wins. We'll scoop things up. We're going to game two.
Yeah, I mean, great identifying there from Mikey. That you're not getting anywhere from there. Very unlucky to see no Colress off of that Pokegear. The cards just weren't falling that game. You know you got to scoop it up. Run Hot Chimpao continues on, and it's got that 1-0 lead here in the opening round here in LA.
You know, I have a confession. It's been a little while since I've seen Chimpao really grow into the strong deck it is. I really was a doubter of this deck for a while. I said, you need to find so much.
Boy.
Okay, listen. Well, I'm putting bias out of it, and no, it's still in it. I'm going to be honest. But you see the deck function like this, and you expect it to just be like that every couple of games. Sometimes it falls short, and it does do that. But really, with the way this deck has been perfected in terms of deck building, it is doing everything in its power to maximize these draws and put these combos together, especially on these early turns.
Yeah, the question has been, can this deck do it for 15 rounds? The answer is yes. Can it do it for 18 rounds? That answer is no. We've tried that. It did not work. In Indianapolis, 4 were in the top 8. It did not end up winning the tournament. Dialga V-Star was just too powerful. Maybe Ciaran or another great Chimpao player finally has what it takes to get over that threshold and show off the potential of this deck and actually get the victory.
Chimpao is a regional champion this year in Europe, but it has yet to win a regional championship here in North America, and this is its last chance to win a regional. Will one of these strong representatives who've been sticking with this deck for so long finally push past the finish line? It's been so close, top 4s, second place, all the closer to taking this win, but yet, as it stands, has not taken this regional win. But Mikey's going to be in a solid position this game. We'll be able to start things off going first, potentially get that turn to Everlasting Darkness before there's any disruption. As we take a look at our prize cards, and that Prime Catcher, it glows pink. You can't ignore it, especially when it's in the prize cards.
Yep, and at the tippy top, unfortunate to see the lightning energy as well, so Iron Hands is not going to be an option. And we do see a little bit of prizing there from Mikey, not too bad, but hey, buddy, sign me up.
Yeah, that Benetti X is in the deck, and that's really all you want to see here from Mikey. Hand is not super powerful, but with this Buddy Poffin, I think the choice here is, do you just grab more of these Comfey in play? Do you grab the Shuppet? And Mikey doing a little bit of both, grabbing one of one, and again, just really struggling to have solid, powerful turn ones with this Giratina deck, and that's what it's known for sometimes. When you're trying to do so much, you can sometimes have to have a really high reliance on using Colress, pivoting a lot. You're fitting this Bayonet line in a little bit. It's really hard to do all of that.
Yeah, the difference of this game is 100% on the fact that Mikey is going first, having the potential to play down that Bayonet EX and start to lock out those items and really crush the fact that Baxcalibur is completely dependent on the rare candy. That's everything in this matchup. So give yourself 2 opportunities, both those Shuppets there. Try to work in the flower selecting, maybe see some additional cards, and you can guarantee that you'll be putting on that pressure before Ciaran even has a shot.
Got to pick through the deck, see what you've got access to. Maybe find Colress. Now, there is a Psychic Energy in the hand as well as a Grass Energy, so Mikey can hold on to those Psychic Energies. Usually with Mirage Gate, it's not super important for which energy cards you're discarding with things like concealed cards, but when you're looking to find turn 2 Bayonet EX, item block your opponent, you've got to prioritize keeping these Psychic Energies in your hand.
Punished with the rocks in hand. That's not the supporter of choice that you're looking for. Has to lose the Psychic Energy, but is holding on to a switch, so at least one more flower selecting, and then the opportunity to attack with that Bayonet EX if it can be found next turn.
And we talked about the good of Chimpao, and this is sort of the dark side that Chimpao can really struggle to get set up sometimes, especially with this hand. I don't think there's really any great supporter options. There is something like a Cypher Maniac, but no energy cards to retreat, no energy cards to maybe grab something like Radiant Greninja and concealed cards, and now this is really what separates the good from the great Chimpao players. How, when you don't have these explosive setups that are sort of, okay, I have Poffins in my hand, I can find my basics, how do you play your turnout to make sure that you don't get steamrolled, especially if your opponent has a powerful disruptive strategy in item lock?
Yeah, this has been the difference from different formats of Chimpao. The fact that now there is that Earthen Vessel, the opportunity to find those water energies when you don't have them in hand initially, that generally leads to a solid setup. But Ciaran doesn't even have access to that. It has to be Cypher Maniac, load an Irida on the top of the deck, and hopefully you're in a better spot than this. Understands the Frigibax was prized, so uses the heavy ball to get that onto the board. And there still is potential for that turn 2, so long as Mikey doesn't have the goods.
Didn't have a game one, but you never know. Things really shifting in terms of narrative this game, and it's just going to be a Cypher Maniac's code breaking to search the deck for 2 cards, put them on top, and it will be a water energy so that the second card, which will be Irida, can be drawn into next turn with that concealed cards ability.
Yeah,
so I think this is the best choice you've got to go for here if you're Ciaran.
It's a really cute play. You know that you're going to find the Irida no matter what, so you might as well give yourself Irida plus 1 additional card, water energy in the discard pile, and you can have access to maybe a little more reach when it comes to finding additional energies with the superior energy retrieval or whatever you need to end up getting that knockout.
And at minimum, this Frigibax did come down this turn, and there is something like Rare Candy, so who knows, even with a weak hand like this, we could see the narrative really shift in towards Ciaran's favor, but it's really going to come down to this for Mikey.
It's all here. Oh, no.
And there is a Nest Ball in this hand. I feel like you've got to grab that, maybe go for something like a concealed cards or another flower selecting, and that is going to be the choice here for Mikey. I feel like if you're in that spot, maybe there's a world where you don't grab that second Shuppet, you just grab Comfey and give yourself a little bit more dig, because it really comes down to this here. You establish Banette, the matchup swings huge in terms of percentage points for your deck compared to what happens now if Ciaran gets a turn to play Rare Candy and get Excalibur into play.
Yeah, 1000%. There's no way that a Shuppet is knocked out on that opening turn, so you should be prioritizing seeing as many cards possible, so you have the opportunity to find that Bayonet and end up locking out all of those item cards. Put so much pressure on your opponent. Instead, now we see it's not even going to be an option here. It's switch into Abyss Seeking, and at that point, Rare Candy Excalibur is easily lined up for next turn.
Yeah, and as soon as you see that Psychic Energy on the Giratina, you've got to sort of breathe a sigh of relief here for Ciaran, just to say, look, what do I have to do? And was that a tough, what was that? Abyss Seeking there, Colress and Comfey going into the Lost Zone.
Yeah, double Colress was found there, so it's you take one of those Colress, and hopefully you can continue on and find the right resources. But the window was open just enough. Rare Candy is in hand, and we know that Excalibur is lined up here.
Yeah, great draw there as well. Found the Chien Pao, so now this Irida could potentially grab another water Pokemon like a Frigibax to get down into play, and we're actually just going to see Ciaran go on the offensive here in terms of getting this board set up. Wants to just draw as many cards as possible, play this Ultra Ball, thin the hand out a little bit, and because of that Rare Candy being in the hand, does not need to use this Irida's item target to find Rare Candy. We'll see this Barrel just draw a bunch of cards, play the Super Rod out, and these 5 cards really got to grant Ciaran something a little bit more special so that he doesn't still get overrun by Banette EX. It's not over here for Mikey just because the Banette was missed and allowed Excalibur to get into play. It's really going to be how can Ciaran manage his energy cards from here on out.
Yeah, at this point, Earthen Vessel in combination with Superior Energy Retrieval will get the job done. Just anything to get 2 energies onto that Bibarel, retreat that Pokemon, get the Chien Pao into the active, and find those additional energies. 4 energies for the knockout here. Puts on an abundance of pressure, which I don't think Mikey be able to handle. 5 cards are so important here.
Yeah, especially if we can knock out this Giratina. But there is no energy cards in this hand, just some ways to find Pokemon and put them into play. And we're going all the way around the world here. All right. Barrel doing the whole world tour here, grabbing everybody on its journey to come with him.
I was going to say maybe Prime Catcher would be one of those options that could move this Bibarel, but it's in the prize card, so we're not going to be shifting around in that regard either. This is a slow turn, but it's exactly what you needed. At least Excalibur is in play.
And there is that Colress's Experiment, does find the Psychic Energy, and the other Banette, of course, does have that powerful ability that allows you to put it into the Lost Zone and then choose a supporter card from your discard pile. There's a lot of powerful cards here, though. Giratina V-Star, some of those energy cards, that Banette that I just mentioned, that Bayonet. Really, Mikey's going to have to think about what he needs from this point on, and may have to get rid of some of these important Pokemon in order to try and get this item blocking strategy on the move.
Yeah, I don't know if the cards are lining up here. It may have to be Radiant Greninja played down onto the board to find a little more help, because ultimately in this spot, if you're able to play down the Bayonet, get some additional cards into the Lost Zone, there's a world where you can use Mirage Gate, target down that Excalibur. If you find boss's orders, and maybe you can completely lock this game out. No Frigibax in play, plenty of cards in the Lost Zone, and that Giratina ready to roll with no energy acceleration for your opponent would be game-breaking in this spot. I just don't know if the cards are going to line up. But I think that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah, an interesting choice from Mikey to grab that other Banette instead of the other cards in hand. Sometimes there's enough energy cards to knock out that first Bayonet EX, but then if you can put a second one into play, things get tough. But with using this ability, you lost zone it to get a supporter card back, and it's just going to be that Coerce's Experiment coming back into the hand.
Yep.
What else does Mikey have to follow this up?
I mean, this is the beauty of playing full art supporters, is you can identify them so well. But when you're a caster, you don't see that that boss's orders is not a full art, and it is hiding in the back of the hand. I think it's ready to roll. This is a Baxcalibur ready to fall. Oh, it's a counter catcher. No, see, he's trolling us. Is that the boss's order there? It's like the third card? Can't tell.
This is why I don't play supporters in my full art supporters in my deck. I do play supporter cards in my deck, but not the full art
I was worried if you were just theme decking over there.
I'm not that good, Kyle, unfortunately. So that is an option potentially if Mikey is holding on to that, but with how slow of a start Ciaran has had, Mikey may just be thinking to himself, hey, if I take out your draw engine, you've only got a single Baxcalibur in play. Hey, you've got to maybe invest 4 energies to knock this Giratina out, and then because Chien-Pao is only running around 8 water energies, there may not be enough for you to take a knockout onto a Bayonet EX the following turn after you knock out Giratina V.
All right, it is boss's orders in there. It's the full art. Boss is the second card now. So plenty of options.
Listen, we got to be correct here. That's a special art rare. That is not a full art there. Of course, you got to put some respect on Gets's name, okay? Well, speaking of respect here, Mikey's earning it. He's taking his first prize card in this game, and Ciaran's really got to put something back together in this situation. Does now have access to Chivalry Chill. That's Chien-Pao can come up into the active spot since that Barrel was knocked out. And there are a few supporter card options, so Ciaran's really just in the tank right now thinking about, what do I do from here? Yes, this knockout on Giratina V, very achievable, especially with the ability to grab any item card out of my deck with either the Cypher Maniac or something like this Irida. But what do I do from there? That's the big question on my mind right now.
Yeah, at this point, this is the issue with playing the 60 hit point for Frigibax as opposed to the 70. If you're able to play a couple of those down, then you have the potential to avoid giving your opponent some free prize cards, and they don't want to target down that Baxcalibur anymore. But you do have to provide multiple threats. Getting plenty of energies into play here would be great for that Chien-Pao to take the knockout, and then also have a little bit of depth if the Baxcalibur is targeted this turn.
So we'll sort of see this sequence of actions be performed for Ciaran here. He's going to use that Chivalry Chill ability and now play the Nest Ball. So this will be an interesting choice. Do you get down something like a Bidoof into play? Is there ever a world where you want to switch this Giratina out of the active spot? And that's going to be the big choice for Ciaran. And now this Frigibax being grabbed maybe means that we could see something like Cypher Maniac in combination with this concealed cards. And hey, look, it's going to the playing field. I think that will be the supporter card here for Ciaran.
Yeah, it's important to find the Bibarel, I would imagine, in this spot, as you don't want to leave 2 Pokemon with 60 hit points in play. It walks right into Sableye, cleaning up those 2 Pokemon, and then targeting Baxcalibur is even cleaner at that point. Playing 1 Frigibax is nice, because then if the Baxcalibur is removed, you can rare candy into the next one, and we see the Ultra Ball there is found.
We could just see another rare candy in the discard pile. I believe that's rare candy number 3 going to the discard pile, so Ciaran will only have one more way to, if this Baxcalibur gets knocked out, fall Frigibax into Baxcalibur with the help of rare candy. And with down a lot of resources, also down that Silene, we saw that hit the discard pile, more Pokemon go into the discard pile. As a Chien-Pao player, you've got to continue to keep track of these resources.
A couple more cards can potentially be found. The Earthen Vessel, you could throw away that Irida if you really want to commit to finding these energies. But at this point, I think you want to look at the energies first with the Bibarel, and then you could find even more with the Earthen Vessel.
Yeah, it's tough. You can essentially draw an extra 2 cards if you just play these out, and it's just going to be the Bibarel. What cards do we see? Finally, the first Pokestop of this set being found off this Industrious Incisors. What else can Ciaran do at this position? I mean, still needs to find one more energy card to knock out this Giratina V, and it was not found. May have to try and discard into one, or maybe find something like a Superior Energy Retrieval. Ooh. Does find the Energy Retrieval and the Water Energy that can go to the discard pile, and with that Superior Energy Retrieval, it means this Chien-Pao can attack thanks to that. Ooh, this is going to be tough, though, because you're going to have to get rid of more resources with all these discarding effects in hand, but Ciaran will still be able to get it done.
Yeah, it works. It's not pretty. You're going to lose basically the hand at this point, but it's enough energies to get the ball rolling. You could even discard one of those. You're not going to be able to grab it back, but you'll still have the 4 necessary to take the knockout on the Giratina V, move ahead in the prize race, and potentially be eyeing up that 2-0 victory if Mikey's not able to come up with something quick.
So Ciaran will just grab those energies out. We're seeing more of these powerful supporter cards hit the discard pile, but that's the price you've got to pay when it comes to taking these big knockouts, thanks to Hail Blade on Chien-Pao EX. So Ciaran has found a way to, after a lackluster start, put himself back into the prize lead, take 2 prizes on this Giratina. But Mikey is still sitting there with that Shuppet and an energy card, which means if Banette EX, Bayonet comes down into play, we will be seeing some heavy disruption. Ciaran taking this knockout, going down to 4 prize cards, and yet again, the spotlight is on Mikey. Can Bayonet finally hit the battlefield, show up on the red carpet, and really show us what it's got?
Yeah, Hollywood is calling its name, but we just have not seen the inaugural attacks, and it's unfortunate because, well, sure enough, here it is. And it could find a decent spot. The problem, however, is there's only 4 water energies in the discard pile. There's plenty of water energies that could still be found from Ciaran, and if you're able to get a decent attack off, you might be able to pressure this Bayonet.
It's really tough because 4 energy puts you 10 damage short of knocking out Bayonet EX. So and because that Prime Catcher is prized and because of item block, there's no way to pivot into another attacker because you need to discard 2 energy to retreat the Chien-Pao. So this is where things are going to get very tough here for Ciaran if Mikey can understand what resources Ciaran probably has available. Of course, these players don't know the exact copies in their opponent's deck, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, Chien-Pao has been playing 8 water energy for pretty much the entirety of this season.
8-1 seems to be the standard, and this honestly might be an error. This is difficult. I think in this spot, Baxcalibur is probably one of the best attackers because it doesn't have to lose energies to continue to attack. Lightning energy is in the hand. We're just 2 waters away from being able to attack with this Pokemon and 2-shot the Bayonet.
Yeah, didn't even play something like that. Irida understands you're down so many supporter cards, you really can't afford to discard those resources later on.
There's nothing found, though.
We can't even do anything here. I mean, the Pokestop isn't going to grant us anything. We can't play the items it finds, and we're just passing back and forth here. We're seeing item block on full display here in game number 2.
Oh, you think about the amount of energies that you need to continue to put relevant damage onto this Bayonet. You can't invest in the Baxcalibur anymore. It is gone.
And we're on a clock here. Ciaran's got 2 turns to find a way to deal this. It's actually got to happen this turn. Otherwise, Baxcalibur goes down and item block stays available for the rest of the game. Does Ciaran have anything? No, there's just Irida on the hand. And if Mikey is able to just announce Everlasting Darkness every single turn from here on out, I mean, you can manual attach the Chien-Pao 4 times, but like we said, it's not enough to take a one-hit knockout. Ciaran understands that, and Bayonet showing its power on display, forcing a game 3.
Yeah, it's a big risk, but it pays off there. The water energies were not in hand. There was nothing else that could be done. Baxcalibur put on the clock, and it's knocked out. Dangerous game, but we're moving into game 3.
Yeah, I, for one, don't like to play when the lights are off, you know. Once that darkness comes in, it can be a scary territory, and if that doesn't show you how item-reliant this deck is, nothing else will. It's got Pokestop, the Irida to find those cards, and yeah, 8 energies seems like minimal when you look at it on paper because, wow, you're going to discard all these energies, and then what do you do with them? But you're playing 7 ways to bring back these energy cards from the discard pile. Take that, hold on to that thought, and then shut it all down with that attack from the Banette EX. And you are stuck with a very tight situation for a big attack deck, a glass cannon deck, so to say, with this Chien-Pao.
Yeah, we'll see if Ciaran maybe starts to identify that there's some spots where you have to play a little more conservatively in this matchup. Yes, you can take the advantage, but if you ever overextend at any point, that Bayonet is going to punish, and we see here, this was the big move. These energies are played down. The entire hand is played down except for an Irida. The knockout is there, and that's great. But you're left with nothing else. And without Prime Catcher, without any way to slow down this Bayonet, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, really got to think back to that turn where Mikey decided to lost zone that 1-1 line of Bayonet. If Ciaran had access to Prime Catcher, if it wasn't in the prize cards, maybe you just try and wait a couple of turns and then target down the Bayonet, and then from there, your deck is really favored when you have resources. Again, some tough prize cards for both players. That 1 copy of Lightning Energy in the prizes for Ciaran, and 2 of those Mirage Gate there for Mikey.
Yep, I suppose it's pretty great to not see any pieces of that 2-2 Bayonet line in the prize cards, so Mikey will have the opportunity to once more go into the darkness and try to shut off these items. But Ciaran with the big advantage, choosing to go first. Eyeing up a lot of little Pokemon. Do we see some Poffins, potentially?
It's been the most impactful card from this new set, from the new rotation here, Temporal Force has introduced sort of a little replacement to Battle VIP Pass, really helping out these evolution decks to grab all of these basic Pokemon, get them into play. Ciaran really going to be relying on just getting down at least one of those Frigibacks and one of those Bidoof. And this hand is looking stellar here, Kyle. Lots of ways to find Pokemon.
Yeah, this is just about everything. Radiant Greninja in hand. Don't have to go through the awkwardness of searching that out. You can draw, you can take all of these basic Pokemon out, flood the board, and then find just the best resources available. The Iridas, the rare candies, the Ultra Balls, everything that leads to a turn 2 Baxcalibur knockout should be lined up.
Yeah, and with Ciaran now having information that that lightning energy is in the prize cards, can just maybe bench lock himself in a sense, understand that Iron Hands will not be needed at this point, and can just commit more bench spaces to just getting a 2-2 barrel line out, a backup Baxcalibur, and that Radiant Greninja. That will be exactly what Ciaran does and can start this acceleration train potentially next turn, using concealed cards, drawing a bunch of cards, and this is sort of the advantage when you play against Lost Zone decks going first. Mikey doesn't play anything like Iono to disrupt the hand. His only way to hand disrupt is later on in the game, so Ciaran will just sort of have free reign to do whatever he wants and try and draw as many cards as he can without disruption.
This is the benefit as well. When you start the Chen Pao, it's completely different as opposed to that initial retreat into finding those additional Shivery Chill energies. You can accelerate, you get that energy for the turn, and if the turn 1 Shuppet goes to lock you out, you knock that puppy right out, and you find your rare candy next turn.
And this inclusion we've seen sort of recently from these Giratina V-Star decks, playing that 1 copy of Force Seal Stone right away. Turn 1 for Mikey. Hand really not looking too solid, but with the Nest Ball in combination with Force Seal Stone, all of a sudden Mikey's playing Chorus on turn 1 and can maybe try and turn sort of this slow start into an explosive one by getting a bunch of these Pokemon down. And we keep saying it over and over again, but Shuppet needs to come down this turn.
Yeah, and depending on what the rest of the hand looks like, it's typically going to be that Chorus. You see as many cards as possible, and you just hope to see Buddy Buddy Poffin really flood the board, get the Shuppets in play, see more cards with the Flower Selecting, and just build something, build up a hand. This is a deck that doesn't have any way to hand disrupt on the other side as Chen Pao, so just continue to flood. Maybe you'll find the right resources.
It's really going to come down to these cards. I think if you're Mikey, you're sort of maybe playing a mind game with yourself. You haven't seen Canceling Cologne hit the board at all in game number 1 or game number 2. Is there maybe a part of you that's thinking to yourself, hey, maybe it is okay to just leave this Manaphy active if I need to, if it means getting down that Shuppet instead of forcing yourself to retreat, and then also find a pivoting card plus a Psychic Energy next turn.
Yeah, this is where a card like Jet Energy is so valuable. It can help you move between to see multiple Comphase. Maybe if you want to take the big risk and use Abyss Seeking just to get more cards into the Lost Zone, that's always an option as well. And maybe you do get your opponent to overextend once more, throw away all those water energies, and then you can lock them out the same way you did in game 2.
Very nice selection of cards here off this Chorus's Experiment. There is that Shuppet, as well as potentially some other pieces to keep. And really, Mikey is valuing keeping this Banette with that ability to bring supporter cards back from the discard pile over more of these pivoting cards, like the Jet Energy and the Switch, the first 2 cards to hit the Lost Zone.
Yeah, I think that was the Shuppet, but it's regardless, this is still a fantastic setup here. You see, you found the Jet Energy. You can bring up this Giratina V, and this is the strategy we were talking about. It looks ridiculous. You're walking right into the bear trap. You're going to get knocked out. But if you find the Bayonet EX, you can item lock and just avoid the fact that all those energies are in the discard pile. They're not coming back if item lock continues.
And this is Mikey pretty much saying to Ciaran, you've got a 1-turn window on your end now, but with only 1 Shuppet coming into play, and Ciaran having access to Prime Catcher, it's not in the prize cards like it was in the first game, or the second game rather. Ciaran does have a potential to shift momentum back into his favor if he can get a big combination of cards. It's still a lot, Kyle, but priority number 1, of course, that rare candy and that Baxcalibur combination, but then also needs enough energy cards to pivot out of this active with the Prime Catcher, as well as gust up that Shuppet. You shut that option off, you give yourself a lot of flexibility in this matchup.
Chen Pao is ready to take the knockout. Just continue to look at a few more cards there if you're Ciaran. I don't think you need to take anything there. Even if there was an option, you just want to get that card out of the hand so that B-Roll can see even more cards. And the moment that you see either Prime Catcher or Rare Candy, the rest of the pieces will be found with Irida. you know you've got that knockout on the Shuppet, and you can continue to play ball.
Well, here we go. First, Industrious Incisors does find an Irida, and there is Pokestop in play. So if this Pokestop can find either a rare candy or something like a Prime Catcher, then this could change the entire dynamic. Ciaran gonna take some smart sequencing choices, wants to get those water energy out of the deck before using something like Pokestop, and we haven't even seen Radiant Greninja be used yet, so Kieran's turn is far from over.
That's right. We're going to have 2 more cards here, seeing 5 cards in total. One of those items, rare candy or the Prime Catcher, that's 5 potential outs that can easily lead to that Shuppet there being knocked out.
Ciaran has had sort of both ends of luck so far in this set. Game 1 went perfectly. Game 2, a little bit of a shaky start, some unfortunate draws, and Ciaran's channeling all he can to try and pull this 3rd game out, continue at an undefeated record. It's going to come down to this. Cannot stress enough how important it would be to get the Shuppet knocked out and get it off the battlefield.
Oh, Pokestop will be the first shot, and it
finds the Prime Catcher. Does also get rid of that water energy, so if there's a way to recover those energy cards, that will also be able to be put back into the hand and doesn't even need to use concealed cards. The Irida can find the rare candy and another Pokemon if there isn't already a Baxcalibur in hand, which there isn't. Ciaran has found all he needed on this first turn. Will put Mikey in a sort of a tight situation this following turn. Even after such a strong start, drawing so many cards, Chien-Pao Kyle, it always finds a way.
Yes, this is what it does. And sure, there's no great Pokemon to leave in the active spot here. If the Manaphy wasn't there, Radiant Greninja would be phenomenal. If Canceling Cologne was in this deck, yes, you could take a double knockout and really just completely obliterate your opponent. Instead, now it's this ugly, awkward knockout Shuppet, but then get knocked out by a Giratina V-Star. But ultimately, that's still a better line than walking into a Bayonet EX.
And this is the big choice here, I think, for Ciaran is there ever a world where you maybe do not use this Prime Catcher? It's really tough because, yes, you eliminate the option of Shuppet on the following turn, but if another Shuppet comes down, you no longer have access to Gust. You're going to have to rely on a card like Silene to maybe bring that back, but when you're staring down something that is essentially in the deck to counter your item heavily reliant strategy, you may have to figure out some other way to make things happen. All right, so we're making sure everything is clear at this point. We do see the Prime Catcher in hand, and it will go after this Shuppet. Make sure that item lock is not a realistic potential on the following turn. We are also going to see that Radiant Greninja in the hand. Now, if there is a way to retreat this out of the active, if there isn't already 3 water energies in the discard pile, that would be a way to be a little bit more efficient.
Let's just attack with it.
Oh, yeah, or we could just attack with it, too. How do you feel like that is maybe a different play than going in with Chien-Pao in this situation?
Yeah, I feel like just having the energies on board means that you're in a better spot. Obviously, you see here that you get to keep 3 energies in play. Your opponent then needs even more resources if they want to target down the Chien-Pao. And they're honestly probably target down a Pokemon like that, but Baxcalibur in this point. If they had a counter catcher, they just need to take away one piece of this engine, and it's not going to be the Bibarel with the hand currently at the size it is.
So we're actually going to see the concealed cards be used first before something like a Poffin is maybe played to grab down that other Shuppet. So maybe Mikey is waiting for a specific turn to put this into play, maybe after something like Roxanne. So Mikey's just going to play this Colress first, look at some more cards, and figure out, after losing that Shuppet the previous turn, how does he want to maybe rewrite his game plan to put himself on a winning line.
Well, Counter Catcher is a great card to assist in this matter, and you see the Flower Selecting will reach the very important 7th card into the Lost Zone now, which means that you have to believe that Giratina V-Star is going to be a card in the mix. And now it just depends on if you want to target down a Pokemon like that Chien-Pao, take the prize cards and put on some pressure in that regard, or if you want to remove Baxcalibur and just hope your opponent doesn't have access to a card like Irida.
Speaking of the best time to put Shuppet down, maybe it's when you can put 2 down at the same time. Does find that important Super Rod item card, allowing Mikey to shuffle back in that Shuppet and a basic Grass Energy. And with this Buddy Poffin, this sort of 2-card combo together allows both Shuppet to get benched, get put into play again, and really allows Mikey to realistically say, look, even if you play Silene, even if you get back Prime Catcher and play it, because I have 2 Shuppet in play, and because I've got the feeling now you most likely don't have that Canceling Cologne, I can start item blocking in the upcoming turns.
That's right. They're best friends, and sure enough, they're going to come out to play right here, right now. No pressure on them as well, which is a great point. The Giratina V-Star is going to have all eyes on it at this stage, and it needs to be checked. Ciaran has to remove that Pokemon from play, and it's all about how many energies can you get them to commit to the discard pile before you walk into maybe a Roxanne on that next turn.
Now, if Mikey did find that counter catcher, like you mentioned, the question now becomes, with so many great options on the bench, what do you go after if you're able to knock out a Pokemon that isn't this Radiant Greninja with something like Shred on the Giratina V, or with a V-Star if there is that option available?
Yeah, you haven't seen a third Bidoof at this point, so you have to have an understanding that this is likely a list that features 3 of those Chien-Pao, so knocking that Pokemon out likely doesn't mean that this is going to be the last of it that you see there. You're not going to get that lucky. I think you just have to continue to put the pressure on in that classic approach, remove a Pokemon like that Baxcalibur, force your opponent to have Irida or that perfect combination of cards, and if they don't, then you're going to at least have one more turn with that Giratina V-Star. Your 40 hit points are going to keep you in the game.
And this is really tough for Mikey because there is an Ultra Ball in the hand which can find Giratina V-Star, but you want that to find that one copy of Bayonet in your deck, and with there only being a single copy, you've now lost that luxury if you're going to play this card. And you see him so hesitant to put it into play, but he understands that if I just attack with Shred, a single energy attachment, even without Super Cold online, means that my Giratina V can be knocked out in response and maybe give me a little bit less wiggle room into the situation.
This is also the same game where we saw that Force Sealstone used, so you don't have access to that V-Star once more. Star Requiem will not be an attack that you can use, and I think we're seeing the nod to that now. Says, maybe I'll just let you take the knockout. 240 is not great for me, but if you knock that Pokemon out, I have the Bayonet to follow. It's a huge debate here.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, I'm even thinking to a situation where maybe if Mikey just does the same thing he did game 1, he lets Ciaran knock out this Giratina V after using Shred to knock out the Baxcalibur, and then if Ciaran discards 4 Water Energy again, Bayonet comes back up, and we're in the same spot we're in game 2, even if it means Ciaran has taken more prize cards to get there. I feel like I wouldn't have maybe hated that there for Mikey.
Yeah, at that point, it doesn't matter if you have access to the Baxcalibur, the rare candy Baxcalibur. Instead, you're just focused on the energies. So every resource so important for Ciaran to track at this stage. Big question now, Mikey. You can remove the major threat, the water energies, and force your opponent to go and search that Pokemon out once more, or you can target down that Baxcalibur and hope to not see Irida or Cypher Maniac, because it's going to go after the energies on board. And I think with a hand of 6, access to a Bibarel, it makes a lot of sense that your opponent probably would find that Baxcalibur once more.
Yeah, it's really tough, especially with how many resources Mikey had to burn to get into this line of play with this Giratina V-Star, really relying off finding some key cards off the prize cards, maybe off of Comfey the following turn. But here we go. Mikey getting back into the prize league, going down to 4 prize cards. And Ciaran now does still have the barrel online, does still have Baxcalibur in play. So now it's going to come down to being unrestricted, being able to play these item cards. Can you put together a 5 energy Hail Blade this turn to put yourself 3 prize cards away and go into 4 now?
Well, this is so difficult. Obviously, the energy count is the most important piece in this situation. If you want the knockout, that's 5 energies. If you want to knock out the Bayonet that follows it, that's 5 energies. Can't do that if you don't have access to item cards. So do you go for a situation maybe where you can chip into this Giratina V-Star and set up a board with an 8 energies Chien-Pao later on, so you have an answer to that Bayonet? This is so difficult to work around without just walking right into the trap.
Yeah, it's really difficult because if you don't knock this Giratina V-Star out, another Mirage Gate means it will just lost impact again. And yeah, that Bayonet option I've been threatening the whole game, I don't even need it if you're not going to give me a great opportunity to use it. And this is where a Lost Zone deck that its main key point is having options expands even further when you're not only now just dealing with the Lost Mind, the Lost Impact, the Radiant Greninja. You've taken that option and now given yourself more of a disruptive play you can make. Mikey putting it on a full display, just the threat of it, really making Ciaran play with such caution in this matchup.
Yeah, I wonder if there was a situation where you can attack with a Pokemon like Baxcalibur in this spot and put pressure on this Pokemon, put it in 2-shot range of the Chien-Pao without overextending these energies. We see that there will be access to plenty of energies in this spot. not only do you have the Chen Pao that can use the Shivery Chill there and get them additional energies into play, you have the Super Rod that can shuffle some back, the Irida that could find the superior energy retrieval, or Cypher Maniac can stack the deck for you.
And this is a really interesting choice. Ciaran is potentially thinking to himself, this is maybe the last turn of the game, or for the majority of the game, that I could have access to items. How do I want to play this out? What supporter cards do I want to use? And with this Cypher Maniac immediately grabbing item cards, we could see another great way this card is combined. Something like the Pokestop to just put item cards on top and then discard them. You know what they are. Usually there can be some variance or uncertainty when you're using a card like Pokestop. You guarantee it. You make sure you have the way that you need to get energy cards back. Some of that security is just needed and works great in a deck like this.
Whoa, look at that.
Wow, 3 items off Pokestop?
Nailed it.
How did that happen? Wow, Chen Pao players are just so lucky, Kyle, man. I could never do that.
It just works out for them. It's sure enough, you can discard that Nest Ball. It's a free card to see 4 more energies. But what's the end game? You're not threatening the Bayonet. You don't have the energies to close out on that Pokemon. This is so dangerous.
And it's really tough because you still have 1 water energy in the discard pile. So if you end your turn off with 2 water energy left, what are you doing for the rest of the game? You've got to assume your opponent still has reasonable access to that. They still have plenty of cards left in the deck. Here we go. We're getting into this endgame, Kyle. There's less than 5 minutes remaining in this round. Ciaran will advance down to 3 prize cards if he does choose to take this knockout. But the ball is back into Mikey's court with Bayonet. In combination with the amount of water energy, Ciaran will have to be down to take this knockout. And this is why this combination of a big Pokemon like Giratina V-Star followed up by Bayonet is such a powerful strategy.
Yeah, you have to overextend at some point. And we see even Ciaran is valuing resources like Super Rod in this instance. Holds onto that card because he wants to see those cards back in play. The issue is this may have been the last turn to use that card.
Here we go. This is going to be the prime opportunity here for Mikey to get a Bayonet EX into play and start item blocking. There's lots of great cards in the hand so far. Mirage Gate, Super Rod can get rid of the Psychic Energy, draw 2 cards. Do we see Bayonet? We do not, but there's more ways to dig through the deck a little bit. We see the Comfey in hand, Nest Ball as a potential option. There could be a way for Mikey to just use as many flower selectings as possible, play out these Mirage Gates, and maybe just try and Roxanne, essentially acting not really for the disruption, but just as a draw 6 supporter card to find this 1 copy of Bayonet EX in the deck.
Yeah, there's definitely another route to go here as opposed to the Sableye. Yes, it's going to give you an opportunity to clean up a bunch of Pokemon at one point, but if you do maybe hedge in this opportunity, you could play down another Comfey, have that Jet energy to move between, see multiple flower selectings, also that Roxanne, and you almost guarantee that you're going to see that Bayonet at some point. This is going to be a little more risky.
Yeah. It could have even used the flower selecting on the active and then played a Jet energy and then used Roxanne before you play that flower selecting. You've got lots of sequencing decisions. This is where things get tight. And Mikey still has a pretty sizable deck, so with there being no way to search this card out, there is a high chance that Mikey isn't able to find exactly what he needs. And especially with Roxanne being played, Sableye as Lost Mine isn't even an option for this turn because there's not going to be 10 cards in the Lost Zone to end this turn off.
Right. Well, I don't think we're going for Sableye.
Yeah,
in this spot. Yeah. The point now is you want to find that Bayonet. You need to give yourself as many opportunities as you can. It's all on 1 flower selecting right here, right now. And so it has to be this Bayonet. It's not there. Yeah, Jet energy just to show off what could have been.
And I think in this situation, it's so weird because you know your opponent could still have enough water energy to grab it out with Shivery Chill. So do you ever maybe play something like Prime Catcher, bring up a big retreating Pokemon like Bibarel, and try and go for that 50-50 coin flip? It's got to be your best position in this matchup, I feel like, if you're Mikey, because otherwise, if you're not taking a prize this turn, Ciaran's got a very solid line, especially if he can bring back these items.
Why aren't we using Prime Catcher right now in this spot?
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, bring up Excalibur and slow them down. Get heads, and then you have 1 more opportunity to find that Bayonet. Instead, still finds Tails. It doesn't matter.
It's Tails. That means with the barrel in play and Shivery Chill, There's no item lock happening. That 50-50 coin flip not going Mikey's way, and Ciaran has sort of found a way back into this game, but has got to play quickly here. There's only 90 seconds left in this match.
Wow.
And with 3 prize cards remaining, and with that lightning energy still potentially being in the prize cards, hopefully we can take a look again at those prizes, see if that lightning energy is there, because Iron Hands plus a knockout this turn could give Ciaran enough resources to get across the finish line. But if there is no access to amp you very much, then if time is called within the next 60 seconds, Ciaran cannot take 2 prize cards with the attacks and the Pokemon he has available, and with what's on Mikey's board.
I don't think Mikey's taking the prize cards to close out in this situation. Ciaran has to start playing faster at this point. The knockout has to happen within the next 50 seconds.
Yeah.
You need your opponent to draw the card for turn so that they are turn 0. You have turn 1 and 3 to get the job done, and that is all on taking a look at that beautiful silver watch and hopefully realizing you got to get rolling right here, right now. Superior Energy Evil is found. However, it does take a little while to play down all these actions. Hopefully just identifies that this is an opportunity where you need to start throwing cards.
And I saw with Ciaran shuffling the deck, there is a lightning energy in the deck, so Ciaran did take that off the prize cards. So even if he's not able to finish this turn off, yeah, these actions are great. Yeah, play your rare candies, evolve your Pokemon, but you've got to attack now, because your situation of winning or tying this game really comes down to what you do in these 14 seconds. If you can take a knockout and pass the turnover, you're not relying. These candies, these cards are not relevant here. You hate to be harsh, but you really don't want to see Ciaran throw away a lot of percentage in this matchup if he's not able to finish this turn. And because he's just a little bit too slow, Ciaran, just mere seconds away from finishing his turn off, will mean that he's only has this current turn plus 1 more turn, since we are now in the final turns of time in this Swiss round.
I haven't been to math camp in a while, but I don't think that this works. There's just nothing there. You don't have access to that canceling cologne to work in a big play on the Manaphy. Just continues to draw, finds cards like the lightning energy, but you don't have bench space. As long as Mikey doesn't open up a bench space, Iron Hands is not a play. I think Mikey will be able to identify that.
Yeah, this is really all you could have done in that situation. If you take the knockout there, you've got so many options, so many lines of play that work for you. You could even bring back all those water energies you discarded this turn, but really that's not an option. Now Ciaran no longer really in a rush because time has been called. There's no real more incentive to play super fast, but you really got to think, if Mikey does not open a bench space up here, that's a big opportunity for Ciaran to have snagged a couple more match points in this round out the window.
Yeah, this was a huge opportunity, and it's going to be for naught at this point. It just really depends on if Mikey's able to identify the situation. Knockout from the Hailblade, 2 prize cards remaining, and it is all about bench space at this point. If Ciaran finds an opening, there is a window to take a 2-prize knockout. Does Mikey see it?
Yeah, maybe your best play is just to bring this Shuppet up and item lock again to say if you're playing anything weird in your deck. Hey, I mean, just to double check, Scoop Up Cyclone is not out yet. We have seen the Prime Catcher get played too, so I believe Ciaran is not playing with an illegal deck, does just have that 1 ace back in his deck. So, look, Mikey's still going to play things out, still going to draw some cards, see maybe what could have been if this game extended a little bit longer, but like you mentioned, Kyle, if there's no bench space open, Ciaran's not playing any cute cards like another Counter Stadium and Collapse Stadium to change the way things go into play. So that will be all she wrote here if Mikey just passes his turn from this point on.
Yep. Mikey's strongest play that he can do is just announce pass. But, of course, wants to see if there are any additional options. It's not identifying any of those just yet. The worst thing that you can do in this spot is attack with Sableye,
let's not jinx
remove
it. Let's not
Feverol.
jinx it. I don't want to see things end like this. I have a history of jinxing people on
12
stream.
damage counters. Maybe you say, ooh, I like prize cards.
Look, Kyle, I mean, let's be real here. How do you win games of the Pokemon TCG?
You concede game 2. That's the way that you do this. If you want to win 3 games, you have to give one of those to your opponent for fun and just go first twice.
Well, I was getting at you have to knock Pokemon out, right?
No.
So surely it's the correct play to take more prize cards. You want to win the game,
You're
right?
not playing against your opponent. You're playing against the clock. You know this. Actually, you don't know this. You've been playing in Japan with best of 1 for so long.
I don't know what time is anymore, Kyle.
It's an illusion.
It's not real. Time is currently non-existent in this game. We're finishing up these last turns. Ciaran just kind of has to sit here and say, you know what? What if we just imagine that there's more time on the clock, right?
Yeah.
So,
Or if he has like a sky field, you know, something to really get the ball rolling.
He just like looks at your opponent and you're like, this is actually expanded. Plays down Skyfield, plays down Battle Compressor. Yeah, it might just be over then. All right, we're putting everything back in. What are we getting ready for? Aqua Storm here? What's happening?
It's very close at this point. We've already seen the double Super Rod at this point. You could just need to find a bench space.
Both players suffering from being locked up, from having no ability to put some more Pokemon into play. Scoop Up Net is gone. It's no longer in the standard format. Oh, are we going to see it? Show me some shadows here. Show me some shadows. Let's see some coin flips.
This is technically the best play at this point. You can Prime Catcher, just put some Pokemon in play in the active, like that Bieberl, whatever it may be, and then use your Shove It, try to shut down those items. If Canceling Cologne was a card to play around, this is the right strategy, but you better not take a prize, and I don't think we'll see it.
And there it is. All right, let's see some heads action here. Hey, no item cards.
Just in time.
And with this being the situation, I mean, let's take a look at the board. There's already plenty of energy cards back then, and Ciaran understands, yep, there's no way for me to take 2 prize cards. This is going to be a tie. Crazy back and forth set between these competitors, and it will fall just short of a proper conclusion. Each player getting 1 match point. They'll still be undefeated, but both players, especially Ciaran, got to be wondering what that game could have been if things maybe played a little bit faster in those last couple of turns.
Yeah, it was, I mean, a wild back and forth that we saw there. You start to wonder, even if Mikey did play down that double Comfey, go for the Jet Energy and really start to burn through the rest of the deck, would he still even have enough time to announce Bayonet enough to close out in that situation? Maybe Sableye was the best option, so that you could then switch into that Lost Mine, take some additional prize cards. Took that risk, it didn't pay off in that spot, and it led to a very close Game 3 with not enough time.
It's that payoff, it's that risk and that reward that players really have to think about. And Kyle, what a set this was. Back and forth action. We saw the start of the show sometimes just take a little bit of the limelight, just step back a little bit and let the rest of these Pokemon put into work. And it was really Giratina in combination with Bayonet. Forced Ciaran to use a lot of these resources in Game 2 to take this knockout. Had to discard half of those water energies, and with Mikey bringing up a big 2-retreat Pokemon like Baxcalibur and eventually knocking it out while item blocking meant that Ciaran had no energies left to knock out the Banette and also had no way to get another Baxcalibur to accelerate those energies back into play.
Yeah, this is not open deck list format, but you basically know exactly what you're playing against as Ciaran. It's only the Canceling Cologne that you're questioning at this point, but you know that you're only going to see 8 water energies. The second that all of those reach the discard pile, you have an opportunity to capitalize with that Bayonet. Was able to do just that by putting on the pressure with that Giratina V-Star.
Yeah, you can sort of see how important that Bayonet is in this matchup specifically. If Mikey's not playing that card, it felt like Ciaran was in dominant positions every single time in this situation.
We see it right here, right now in that spot. It closes out the game. The issue then is, do you have enough time with the clock? It could potentially have happened in that spot, but it's going to be for naught. Maybe Mikey will be able to find a redemption opportunity against another Chin Pal, but not here in round 4. Both our players now 3-0-1. Going to take 10 points into the next round. It's not a bad place to be.
No, not at all. Many players go in at records like 7 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw, or hey, look, if you win your next 5 rounds straight, you can go in at 8 wins, no losses, and 1 draw. And both players playing very, very well. Lots of clean play and lots of great strategies for these players. They understand and know their decks well, so no matter who their opponents are, and there's lots of great ones in the field, I'm sure they'll be having some intense battles and have a very good shot at even maybe seeing them in our day 2 or our top cut.
Yeah, it was quite the tango between these two players, really just trying to find that opportunity to step in and get that additional prize card, additional resource, whatever it was in that last spot to close out the game. Just not enough time, and that's been the name of the game so often when you're trying to play so many different players in this venue.